Let us close the eyes for a moment. Remembering God and the Masters, we will pray together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine protect us all. May we enjoy food together. May we meditate and pray together. May we attain wisdom through our study and discussion. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. I bow to one formless God. I bow to all the saints and sages of all times and places. I bow to lineage of Kriya Yoga masters. And on this special occasion of Mahashivaratri, a night dedicated to Lord Shiva, I bow to Lord Shiva. I humbly bow to divine power of God in each one of you. Good evening and welcome to this series of lectures. Today we are going to have our fourth lecture in this series on the topic components of Kriya Yoga. In our previous class, we started our discussion on Tapaha and then Swadhyaya. In Swadhyaya, we discussed Swadhyaya means Swa Adhyaya, study of own self. And as a spiritual seeker, we discussed that Swadhyaya is part of Kriya Yoga as well as it is part of our daily life. Every single day, we need to do self-examination, self-inquiry before going to bed, or at least when we get up from the bed, few minutes. How to do Swadhyaya? There are some questions we need to ask ourselves. In the previous class, we discussed that we have to contemplate, we have to ask ourselves that who we are. This is the basic question, who am I? And you have to contemplate, you have to find the answer. Then second question, which we discussed before, where did I come from? What is my source? And then third question, what is mine in this world? Truly speaking, nothing belongs to me. Everything is given to me as a gift from God. I'm using everything for the benefit of the society. I'm using every single object to grow in this world. But truly speaking, nothing belongs to me. Whatever I think belongs to me is really not mine. Because the thumb rule is whatever is mine will remain with me all the time. But it does not happen. Now, going further into that discussion, there are few more questions we have to ask. Fourth question is, where are we going to? Means, what is our destination? If we know from where we have come, we will also know where we have to go. There is no means of finding out where we are to go. But by grasping the chain of samskaras, our past impressions, it is possible to know about our past lives. But for the future, neither impressions exist nor a chain. It depends on the state of mind at the time of death. Good karma will result in a birth in a higher species, and bad karmas will result in a lower species. But the cycle of rebirth does not end with that. The wheel of time is rising and falling, will continue to turn. There must be some way to stop this merry-go-round of entering and leaving different life forms. So why not perform actions that are neither good nor bad? Means nishkama karma, selfless action. Fifth question we have to ask, if I know who am I, because that was the first question. If I know, at least theoretically, I am Satchidananda, I am pure consciousness, I am eternity, and I am divine bliss. Maybe we have not experienced, but in theory, at least we know. Once we know that these are the attributes given to me means the self. Then fifth question comes to mind, why did I fall from myself? If I am blissful, if I am eternity, if I am pure consciousness, why I am not established in that truth all the time? So the highest principle or personal principle of life, that I am divine, I am child of God. But why did I fall from that position and I forgot? Due to what factors I was born into this present day pitiable condition? I understand that this world is unreal, but I still keep running after the world. I know that the pleasures of the world are full of sorrows, but I am dying with cravings for them. If this is not a misconception, then what it is? Is this misconception cause of my pitiable condition, that I am attached to this world with an expectation of worldly happiness? It is definitely a misconception that is making me dance around. So how can this misconception be destroyed so that I can attain my real position as child of God, as a blissful, happy person all the time? You have to contemplate Swadhyaya. Then sixth question comes. Due to this misconception, I developed a sense of doership because I forgot that I am not the doer. So I thought that I am doing and I am suffering. Because of this misconception, I developed a sense of doership more and more. And it has made me accumulate impressions, because when I'm doing action, every action is leaving behind some impression and also the result. So I am accumulating more and more impressions on my chitta or mind. Now I am restless like a bird entangled in the net of destiny. I want to escape from the net, but I cannot. The grip is tightening. I don't see any way to escape. Destiny or prarabdha is so strong and powerful that it does not leave me alone before bearing fruits. With the accumulation of new impressions, the wheel of samskaras keep on running. Why not go through destiny or prarabdha without being happy or unhappy, so that new samskaras are not accumulated? Remember, this is very important. Once we exhaust any result of action, because it is because due to our prarabdha. When we exhaust it and we become happy or unhappy, we create no more sanskaras, new sanskaras or impressions. But if we remain detached, if we remain completely balanced, as we discuss the definition of yoga, Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate from Bhagavad Gita, second chapter. Remaining balanced or completely unaffected in case of pairs of opposites. That is the state of yoga. So if we exhaust our karma without getting affected, happy or unhappy, we will not create and accumulate more impressions. Can I do this? Ask. How much endurance and how much patience will I need for that? I will have to destroy my mind to succeed. Means all the impressions, I have to control my mind for that. How can I do that? Best remedy is to practice Kriya. Then seventh question we have to analyze. The followers of Kriya must also examine how much the sense of surrender is present in the mind, because that is the third component of Kriya Yoga, which we will discuss maybe in today or in next class, Ishwar Pranidhana. So every follower of Kriya must also examine how much the sense of surrender is present in the mind. With Kriya practice, the sense of an observer will develop, which is called drashta. We just remain witness. But surrender is different from that. Being observer is not surrender completely. Not to interfere with the spontaneous action, to have equanimity in joy and sorrows, and to fulfill duties without concern for results are parts of surrender. So three things are part of surrender. Surrender Ishwar Pranidhana. Not to interfere with the spontaneous actions. Second, to have equanimity in joy and sorrow, means all pairs of opposites, and to fulfill our duties without concern for the result. Not to think what will happen, how it will happen, you just do your own duty. So this is surrender. One must ask, am I able to do that? Doesn't my ego increase repeatedly and lead me astray from the path of surrender? After this, next question we can ask, an aspirant must not think about his own virtues and must never praise himself. This is the biggest obstacle. When we follow some spiritual discipline, we always try to show our virtues. Sometimes we praise ourselves. This can give rise to ego. And ego is the worst vice. It means that those virtues have not yet become natural because nature does not have any ego. If one has ego about virtues, then it is certain that those virtues are not part of his nature. In the first place, you must not look at your own virtues. And second, never examine the virtues and vices of others. One cannot learn from the virtues of others. While vices can influence the mind very easily, it is natural. We see virtues of others, but we don't learn from them. But when we see the vices, immediately our mind is getting affected. Do I have these vices which I am looking into other people? Am I learning from others' virtues? You have to analyze. Then next question you can ask as a swadhyay. You must look at your own vices. Look, previously we discussed about the virtues of others, to look at the virtues of others, not your own. Now you should look at the vices of your own. A common man does not know about his own vices. Even if he comes to know about his vices, he tries to justify them. Consequently, faults remain within and keep on growing. So long as a person is not disgusted with his own vices, the path to control the mind will not open. Only after becoming disgusted will the person try to find ways to free himself from those defects. Is there a feeling of disgust toward these faults? Do I try in any way to get released from them? Analyze. Now for self-examination, next question. Are my lifestyle and food habits sattvic? Sattvic means harmonious. You will find that our food habits is completely different, from person to person it changes. But am I taking a sattvic diet? Am I taking something with or eating something which is making my mind more restless? You have to analyze. About food, there is not much instruction given by the masters when we practice Kriya, but you have to analyze your own what food suits to your temperament. And how is your lifestyle? If the lifestyle is in harmony, then you will have no problem in sadhana. So ask yourself, do I behave humbly? Are my words and actions are same? I'm saying something but I'm doing something different. Then there will be conflict in your mind and you cannot progress. Do I react strongly to small things? Did I betray someone's trust in me? Do I keep my appointments? This is also important when we have to deal with others. Look, these things look very normal. You will say, I know, but these are part of yama and niyama, part of kriya practice. Do I go to bed early and get up early in the morning? Do I study some scriptures every day? Do I sit for meditation regularly? Sorry. Do I waste time? Guruji always reminds, don't waste your time, don't waste a single breath. We listen but we forget. Also think, do I take interest in gossip or listen to gossip about others? So practice simplicity and straightforwardness, which is called Arjavam in Bhagavad Gita. Simplicity. So these are some suggested questions that would help a seeker in self-examination. A sincere seeker must assign some convenient time for this. It can be morning, evening, any time which is convenient for you, few minutes. Seeker must scold himself for his mistakes. He must repent and make a resolution not to repeat the same mistakes again. And this must be contemplative throughout the day while doing every activity. This way, a seeker can control his mind all day. The meaning of spiritual practice is to change the direction of flow of life. If life does not change, then it shows there is some deficiency or defect. That's why in the previous class, I recommended to use Kriya Diary to do self-analysis as recommended by Guruji. However, these are the tools, these are the questions for self-enquiry Swadhyaya. One Swadhyaya, as we discussed, inner meaning. to meditate, to concentrate, to meditate, staying in the cranium, in the soul center, Tapaloka. And the external form of Swadhyay is to study scripture and do self-analysis, self-examination on regular basis, day to day. Because if we do not look at our own self, we will not know our own faults. So, Tapaha and Swadhyay we discussed. Now we come to the third component of Kriya Yoga. What is the third component? It is called Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana Ishvara is the Lord, Pranidhana, surrender. Ishvara Pranidhana, simple meaning is surrender. Surrender to whom? Surrender to God, Ishvara. Or we can say resignation to God. Or unconditional love for God. Here the word Ishvara. Ishvara means Supreme Lord with authority to rule and control. So when we say Ishvara, Ishvara is one entity or power, authority, which is ruling and controlling this universe. Here Ishvara doesn't mean the absolute, God the absolute, but Ishvara with some attributes. And you will be surprised to know that this word God, means Ishvara, is introduced in yoga philosophy. Before this, in other schools of philosophy, there was no concept of Ishvara. There was supreme power, natural power, supernatural power, but this word was not there, defined particularly. So Ishvara, Supreme Lord, and Pranidhana. Pranidhana means surrender or taking refuge or even bowing down. So Ishvara Pranidhana means dynamic surrender to God or offering gratitude in every breath. If we think about Kriya perspective, then in every breath, offering gratitude or remaining thankful to God is Ishvara Pranidhana. This word Pranidhana, if we split in Sanskrit, it becomes pra. Pra means full or complete. Ni means under. Dhana. Dhana means placing or placement. So Pranidhana is the spiritual art of subordination to God and freedom from ego and pride. So Ishvara Pranidhana is the third component of Kriya practice. Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, Ishvara Pranidhana has been emphasized more than the word yoga itself. If you read Sage Patanjali has this word yoga, but more than this word he has used Ishvara Pranidhana. And 3 places I can tell you. It is in the first book, 23rd Sutra, second book, 32nd Sutra, and in second book also Sutra number 45. 3 places you will find Ishvara Pranidhana. Among all the 6 branches of Indian philosophy discussed, because there are 6 schools of philosophy we discussed in the first lecture. The philosophy of yoga is where Ishvara is first introduced into spiritual and philosophical life. So Kriya Yoga integrates these 3 practices simultaneously. Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. You know, we discussed before, Tapa is the path of action, Karma Yoga. Swadhyaya is the path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. And Ishvara Pranidhana, path of devotion and love, is the Bhakti Yoga. So Kriya Yoga is the integration of these 3 together. That's why Gurudev said Kriya Yoga is the synthesis of Karma, Jnana and Bhakti. action, knowledge and devotion. And Gurudev said very clearly, without performing action, you will not attain knowledge. Without knowledge, you cannot develop devotion. So these three are integral part of the practice. They are not separate. Gurudev gave a beautiful example of laddu. It's a Indian sweet meat, a sweet ball. In laddu or sweet ball, there are three components: chickpea flour, sugar, and some clarified butter, ghee. If you eat chickpea flour, sugar, and ghee separately, it will not give you a good taste. But when all three are together, composed in the form of laddu or sweet ball, it gives you delicious taste. It becomes laddu only when three are together. So also Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhan, three together give you the exact path of Kriya Yoga, and it takes you very quickly for the process of evolution. In each human being, there are three principal organs: the hands, the heart, and the head. 3H. Hands represent activity, heart represents emotion, and the head represents intellect. A pragmatic integration of these three H, hand, head, and heart, is the art of living a successful life of perfection, which is called Kriya Yoga. Now a question comes to mind. The simple meaning of Ishwar Pranidhana is surrender to God or unconditional love for God. How do we surrender to God? Sometimes people say, Swamiji, it is difficult. I don't have surrender. I don't have devotion. How can I develop it? Or what should I do? So it's a very basic question. How do we surrender to God? To surrender to God, first we have to establish a personal relationship with God. You cannot have surrender to a stranger. Suppose a person who is walking on the street and you say that you should love this person. How can I love that person? I don't know him or her. I don't know anything about that person. Then how can I develop that love or bond of love? How can I surrender? So to surrender to God, first thing we have to establish a personal relationship with God, and this personal relationship can be like a father, a mother, a husband, or a friend. But in any form, there has to be a personal relationship first. If I don't know something, how can I think about that? And we have many examples. Ramakrishna Paramhansa, he took God as mother, Mother Kali. Saint Meera, she took Lord Krishna as husband. And Radha also as husband. The Sudama, Draupadi, she considered Lord Krishna as friend. However, we can consider any form of God and have this relationship, personal relationship. If there is a relationship established, then it is easy to understand, to communicate, to know the divinity. Lord Jesus took God as Father. Ramakrishna Paramahansa said about surrender, there are two types of surrender. He said one surrender is baby monkey surrender, and one is a kitten's surrender. Baby monkey, if you observe monkeys, sometimes if you go to Balighai or Amarkantak Ashram in the central India, you can find hundreds of monkeys there. And you can observe the baby monkey holding the mother. When mother is jumping from branch to branch on a tree. So the baby monkey, little baby, very cute, holding the mother, and the mother takes the baby from one place to other. Now in this, there is surrender from baby. So baby monkey is surrendering to mother monkey. But this surrender has some self effort because the baby monkey is holding the mother. So there is some self effort. So this is one kind of surrender, that we surrender to God, but we also have our own self effort. So this is, initially it is good. Now second type of surrender is kitten's surrender. You can see some cats. When cat is moving from one place to other, it is holding the kitten by mouth and taking it to other place. In this case, this little cute kitten is not holding the mother, while mother is holding the kitten by mouth. So in this, kitten has no self effort, and therefore it is the best form of surrender. So long as we have our own self effort, our surrender is not complete because we still believe in ourselves. There's a beautiful story about it, that once Lord Narayana, with his consort Mother Lakshmi, was playing some game in Vaikuntha, in his abode. And suddenly he stood up and he made a move. So Mother Lakshmi asked, "Where are you going?" And Lord said that one of my devotee is being stoned. Some people are stoning at him. So I had to go, and he's asking for help. He is remembering me. So I had to go immediately to save him. But within few seconds, the Lord returned. And Mother Lakshmi asked that what happened? Did you not go there to save your devotee? He said, as I was just going to save him, I saw that devotee who was taking my name. He himself took a stone and started throwing a stone at the other people in retaliation. So when I saw that he has his own self effort, he is not surrendering completely to me. He has his own ego that he thinks that he can protect himself. Then I think I don't need to go to protect him. So in second surrender, second form of surrender of a kitten, there is no self effort. So if we are totally dependent on God, that, oh God, I cannot do anything, it's everything is yours, do whatever you want. And that is what Paramahansa Yoganandaji said, that when Jesus said, he referred to Jesus, let thy will be done. Let thy will be done. When this comes, then God will come and save. And another beautiful episode from Mahabharata, you might have heard this story, that the 5 Pandava brothers were invited by the cousins, 100 Kaurava brothers, for a game of dice. So they lost the game because of some trick, and they put themselves and became slave to the Kauravas, and they also tried the Draupadi, and they lost Draupadi also. The story goes that in the court of King Dhritarashtra, it became very demeaning incident. The story goes that in the courtroom, the Kaurava brothers tried to disrobe Draupadi, the wife of their foes, the Pandavas. Draupadi, who was helpless, was intensely praying to Lord Krishna to save her from humiliation. Eventually, Lord Krishna did save her by providing her with so much of cloth that Dushasan, who was pulling on it, became exhausted and gave up his attempt and could not disrobe Draupadi. But later on, when Lord Krishna came and Draupadi met Lord Krishna, Draupadi asked him why he took so much time to save her because she was praying intensely and initially there was no help. So instead of helping him immediately, why did Lord took so long? That was her question. And Lord Krishna replied, when I came to help, I saw you that you were holding onto your clothes with both hands so that Dushasan couldn't disrobe you. And you are praying to me. Since you are holding your clothes, you are trying to protect yourself. I thought you would not need my help. However, when finally you gave up and prayed with both the hands and said that, Lord, nobody can help, I am completely surrendering to you, I knew it was time for me to come. So unless we have complete surrender or total surrender, we cannot have vision of God. So this Ishwar Pranidhana, it does not come in one day, but it is developed. Our master Lahidi Mahasaya said about Ishwar Pranidhana. What is Ishwar Pranidhana? According to Lahidi Mahasaya, to be with Parama Guru is Ishwar Pranidhana. You will ask, who is Parama Guru? Now, in Kriya practice, we know that all the masters are located in the chakras. So among the 7 chakras, in the soul center is our Guru Preceptor. Our Guru Preceptor, and Param Guru is Master of Master. Param Guru is God. So God is in the fontanel, and in the soul center our own Guru Preceptor we think of. Right? Therefore, to remain in the fontanel is Ishwar Pranidhana. As long as you keep your consciousness in the fontanel, as Gurudev, Sri Gurudev always reminded, he was beating like this. God is breathing from top, remain in fontanel, remain in fontanel. So long as we remain in fontanel, it is practice of Ishwar Pranidhana. We are surrendering to God. We are not going down in the chakras in the world, but we are with God. So Gurudev always reminded us to remain in the fontanel, and this is what is Ishwar Pranidhana according to Lahidi Mahasaya. We will discuss this Ishwar Pranidhana more in our next class when I'll give you all the references in which sutra this word has come. So we'll discuss little bit more at that time. Now the question comes, what is the purpose of Kriya Yoga? We understood that Kriya Yoga has 3 components, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana, and we must practice Kriya Yoga. But what is the purpose? So in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, there is clear description why we should practice Kriya Yoga. It is in the second book, second sutra. First sutra we discussed Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwara Pranidhanani, Kriya Yoga, and then following this sutra, in the next sutra, Sage Patanjali is telling that to remove the miseries, we have to practice Kriya Yoga, as well as we have to attain the state of Samadhi. So the sutra goes, Sa Hi Kriya Yoga. It is in parenthesis. Why? Because the previous sutra is giving definition of Kriya Yoga. So what is the purpose of Kriya Yoga? It is in continuation. Sa Hi Kriya Yoga. The sutra is Samadhi Bhavanartha Klesha Tanu Karanartha Cha. So 2 things are here. Samadhi Bhavanartha and Klesha Tanu Karanartha. That Kriya Yoga indeed. Which Kriya Yoga? Which is in the form of Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana. That Kriya Yoga indeed is practiced for 2 purposes. Removal of the obstacles, and second, for the attainment of Samadhi. So see here, this is a clear-cut difference between other types of yoga techniques and Kriya Yoga. Many times people ask that what is the difference between this yoga and Kriya Yoga? It is clearly mentioned here. Kriya Yoga is having two purposes. First is removal of the obstacles or miseries. Now obstacles or miseries here is mental as well as physical afflictions, both. And second purpose, which is the highest purpose, is attainment of samadhi. While in many other different types of yoga, this is missing. The first part is always there. You practice asana, pranayam, this, that, all the purificatory mudras, processes. So they all give you physical, mental benefits. But attainment of samadhi is not there. Nobody talks about that. So Kriya Yoga is having this highest purpose of attaining self-realization or samadhi. And removal of obstacles and miseries is the byproduct of Kriya Yoga. That's not the main purpose. Main purpose of Kriya Yoga is to attain samadhi. While practicing, it is natural that we become free from all the mental and physical afflictions. This is a big difference. Samadhi bhavanartha, this is first, and then it comes kleshtanu karanartha, removing all the miseries. Now, if we discuss a little bit more about this sutra, this sutra highlights the immediate benefits of Kriya Yoga. When it is practiced with implicit faith, love and loyalty, then we get immediate benefits. And Gurudev used to say, those who practice Kriya Yoga, they get physical, mental, intellectual and spiritual benefits simultaneously. Here the sage Patanjali is specifically describing that through the sincere practice of Kriya Yoga, there are two prominent results: attainment of samadhi and reduction of afflictions and miseries. So this is the sequence in which Sage Patanjali has explained that life is full of miseries and every living being wants to be free from suffering. Even those who follow the path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga, aim at the twofold attainment. Those who study Vedanta, they know these two terms. That what is the purpose of attaining knowledge? Dukkha nivritti, Paramananda prapti. Dukkha nivritti means freedom from sorrows. Paramananda prapti means attainment of supreme bliss. Exactly same thing is Sage Patanjali is telling, attainment of samadhi and freedom from miseries. Dukkha nivritti, Paramananda prapti. So through the practice of Kriya Yoga, the afflictions in the form of ignorance are attenuated, diluted. Afflictions are there because of past impressions, but we can remove them, we can dilute them and then be free from that, even the ignorance. Although mental turmoil is a part of ordinary life, one can rise above it, it is possible. And it is the essence of all scriptures that by fulfillment of one's own duties, the mind is purified. And Sri Adi Shankara in Viveka Chudamani declared Chittasya Shuddhaya Karma. Chittasya Shuddhaya Karma. Karma or actions are for purification of mind. The karma cannot give you liberation, but they can purify the mind. They can make you free from further creating impressions. Example is given that sun is there in the sky and sun's rays dry the wood and a slight flame transforms the wood into a full fire. Similarly, tapaha, austerity, and swadhyaya self-study purify the life Remember, tapa and swadhyay, austerity and self-study, they purify the life. And Ishwar Pranidhana, the third component, surrender to God, brings realization. That's why during Kriya initiation or practice, our teachers always remind, practice with love. Love for God, love for Master. Because if that element is missing, Ishwar Pranidhana, that love is missing, our practice is mechanical. It is only giving the purification of mind, giving some health benefits. But where is realization? So Ishwar Pranidhana is the most important factor which takes us to realization. And this is what is mentioned in Sutra number 45 in second book. That surrender to God or renunciation of the fruits of result of action and offering of karma or actions all gradually eliminate ego. We are full of ego. So how to be free from that? Surrender to God that I am nothing and renounce the fruits of action. Means I did as my duty. Whatever result comes, I will accept it. Then offering karma, whatever I have done because of my ego, I am offering all these actions to God that take care of it. So this is the way to eliminate ego. Now, self-discipline and surrender to God are to be practiced in daily life, not just sitting for meditation and practicing, but in daily life, moment to moment, self-discipline and surrender to God are to be practiced. So in this sutra, when Sage Patanjali is telling Samadhi Bhavanartha, means being the means as well as the goal of Samadhi, to attain Samadhi. So practice of Kriya Yoga through self-discipline and surrender to God allows the path of Samadhi to be smooth and psychological disturbances to be weakened. Hence, my master Baba Hariharanji Gurudev emphasized Kriya Yoga as the quickest means of success. Just like putting on warm clothes in winter brings freedom from cold and warmth inside, similarly, the practice of Kriya Yoga brings elimination of misery and attainment of realization. In Samadhi Pada, Sage Patanjali talks about external practice, abhyasa, and non-attachment vairagya. So this word will come abhyasa and vairagya in Sutra number 12, first book. Abhyasa means practice, repeatedly or continuous practice. Vairagya means non-attachment to the fruits of action. And in the third book, Sutra number 4, Sage Patanjali also highlights the inner practice of sanyama or perfection in self-discipline. Remember, human beings by nature are active. We cannot be idle. We are always active. So through a dynamic lifestyle, as described in Kriya Yoga, one can attain perfection. In the coming classes, we'll discuss a little bit more about the different aspects of Kriya Yoga for different types of student. So we need to remember that purpose of Kriya Yoga is to eliminate these sorrows or miseries, and the highest principle is to attain Samadhi. With that we practice Kriya Yoga, not just for our physical fitness. So let us practice sincerely, meditate more on this occasion of Mahashivratri today, very auspicious moment. It is said that on this day, if you meditate, you'll get 1000 times more better result of your meditation. So let's follow the practice, and in the next class, we'll continue with this sutra. Time for meditation. Please close your eyes. With deep love, remember Lord Shiva, who is the propounder of yoga. He gives us liberation. Keep your spine straight. Withdraw your attention from the external activities and thoughts and focus it in between the eyebrows. Let us begin with watching the breath from top of the head to bottom of the spine. Watch your subtle breath, gentle, regular breath. Every single breath you observe and feel the presence of divine power. Remaining in the fontanelle or in the cranium, watching the breath, tapah, swadhyay, Ishwar pranidhana, complete surrender. As you observe your breath, your thoughts will reduce. Breath becomes more rhythmic. Let us practice some deep breathing. A couple of deep breaths. Slow, long, deep as per your capacity. From top to bottom in the spinal canal. When you inhale, feel love for God. When you exhale, feel peace within and without. Please inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale love, exhale Exhale, peace. Inhale, love. Exhale, peace. Normal breath. Breath becomes more feeble and slow. Mind is very calm, completely relaxed. Remain inside the cranium, just like a witness. Meditate in silence. Body is completely relaxed, experiencing divine blissful state. Sat Chit Ananda Swarupoham. I am pure consciousness, truth, divine bliss. Bring your attention back to soul center. Let your body and mind absorb this calmness, peaceful state, love. extend this peace within your family, with your loved ones, all the time. Remain conscious of divinity, praying for all. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble and generous. May there be no sorrow or suffering. May there be more love, peace and harmony among us and in the entire creation. Om. Amen. Thank you all. Open the eyes. Today is the auspicious day of Mahashivaratri, so meditate more. Love God in every breath. See you again on next week. Jai Guru.